Coming up in this latest Rugby League Down South podcast, Joey Grima smiling after a first victory 24 rounds into the season for his side. We've more reaction to the Broncos win with a view from the press box too. We speak to the South East Premier Champions Medway Dragons, their coach Rob Powell as they head into the national quarter-finals, and an in-depth chat with head of Wales RL Brian Juliff. Also details of a charity game in the South. Thank you once again for downloading. It's been 2 weeks since the last one. I've missed it. I don't know about you. Thank you for all the interaction on Twitter and Facebook and on the emails over the last couple of weeks. I'll get as many as I can into this podcast. Start with this one from Mike, a tweet at Ian Ramsdale. Well done on an excellent interview with John Wells. Getting me in again and again. The best pundit by far. Thank you, Mike. Knowledgeable guy, and good to have his opinion from inside and outside the camp over previous years. That's on the previous podcast. A couple of things coming up for you on this one. We'll get to the important news of Broncos right now, though. So David sent me a message on Twitter as well, at Ian Ramsdale. Of course, if you want to get in touch, it's at Ian Ramsdale on Twitter. The email is rldownsouth@gmail.com. David saying, looking forward to this week's podcast. Hopefully, Channing in the Challenge Cup team for next week too. Hashtag RLDS. Hashtag London. The Broncos won with a win. 24 rounds into the Super League season, beating Leeds, okay, depleted the week before the Challenge Cup final, but it's 2 points, and that's how it registered in the Super League table. The losing run is over too. They won't go a season without winning a game. All those stories can be put to bed. I personally was gutted that I wasn't there. It sounds like an amazing game, an amazing comeback. The tenacity and the never say die spirit, I think is what they call it, isn't it? That the Broncos showed. One of the big positives from the game. I did see all the comments. I was following it on Twitter and didn't have the audio commentary, but was following this latest score updates. And for me, I just think it's just reward for all the hard work that's been put in at the club over this year. A lot of stuff's been going on. Okay, sometimes things are right, sometimes things are wrong. But in the latter half of this season, things have been more right than wrong. And once things have been sorted out and the whole rigmarole of the end of last year had happened, there's been a lot of hard work being put in by very many people, and it's great to see them all rewarded with a win. So on and off the field. But one man who particularly deserves it is Joey Grima, the head coach of Broncos. He's worked tremendously hard. He's kept a positive attitude. He's kept the training ground a positive place to be, and he's managed a situation where you've got players leaving for next year, relegation, and trying to recruit a different squad for a different league, for a different division, and oversee various transitions. And I think, at the moment, it's all going very well. And they now have a win to their name. Joey Grima, as he's been referred to in a blog by the writer of the Sunday People, Nigel, he was writing a blog today, and yes, he said he was grinning from ear to ear at the end of the game on Sunday. So yes, here he is in conversation with Jamie Hill post the game on Sunday. A victory, his first victory, and here are the thoughts of Joey Grima with Jamie Hill.
Joey, I think it's going to take some time for that smile to leave your face.
Yeah, it certainly will. Certainly one of the more remembering days of my coaching career. This is up there with the best win that I've had in my 11-year coaching career, and I reckon I'll wake up tomorrow morning with a smile still on my face.
It was almost like a dream-like state that second half as well. When Leeds scored that try to go 30 points to 8 ahead early in the second half, something just happened to the Broncos and they were irresistible for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you're exactly right. One of the things that I've criticised the team about is inability to follow instructions, and today we were so far away from that, where we were mentally strong and we stayed at the task at hand, and we identified their weaknesses and we just threatened them there, and it just made it so much easier for us to score all those points. So really pleased for the side in that they were able. I've been telling them all season that they do have the mental capacity to play at this level, and they just demonstrated that with with that deficit of 30-8.
And the fact is, people will say it was a rested Leeds Rhinos side. They had some youngsters out there, but then again, the London Broncos is a very young side these days. It's still the Leeds Rhinos. They have world-class talent, and you've got your Super League duck broken against one of the best sides in the competition.
Yeah, agreed. And look, everyone knows that their 6 or 7 best players didn't play today. However, you look at their back 3 or their back 5 with Paul Ayton, they're representative. They're world-class players. So if you put them against our back 5 and our 9, then, you sort of get a yardstick of where they're at. And it's disappointing, I imagine, for Brian and the Leeds Rhinos, but they got other fish to fry next week, and it must have been a very distracting week for them, given that they've been in this situation before. So I just congratulate Brian and the Leeds Rhinos and wish them the best for this week.
And a lot of people talk about the Leeds Rhinos and the Challenge Cup final, but they had to win today to get back second in the Super League, and you've spoiled their party today.
Yeah, we did. I'm sure that, there's 3 more rounds to go, and I'm sure that Brian Mack, after the next week's game, is going to be all focused, and I'm sure they'll end up, up towards the 1-2 of the competition.
But for you and for the London Broncos, Joey, I mean, this is massive, isn't it? Everyone's talked about next season and the plans for the championship, but to just get that victory, it must mean so much. It's
just good for the whole club and good for the players and my staff. We work tirelessly. We're a small but dedicated staff. The players haven't had a pre-season. We've overcome a lot of adversity, and just to have that win and just to watch the boys take a deep breath of air in their lungs and enjoy their company together after a win is certainly refreshing.
They've earned a few beers tonight.
Yeah, they did, and I told them to be smart and told them not to be silly, but I told them that they're allowed to have a beer or two tonight, because we got the weekend off next week, but we still got to get ready for the Catalans.
And just lastly, Joey, it does mean this victory that mathematically London Broncos are not guaranteed to finish bottom of the Super League. It's still very likely they may do, but the fact is you're taking it to the last few weeks of the campaign now. It's a proud record this club has, and you've given yourselves a chance of keeping it going.
Yeah, we have, and who knows, what about that last game between Bradford and London Broncos? It could be the wooden challenge, the wooden spoon challenge. I'm not really sure, but no, I mean this respectfully, that, look, we've got 3 games to go. On the back of this win, anything can happen. It's great to be the side that will not have the title or not have the recognition of not winning a game in a Super League program.
Great to hear Joey so upbeat and so happy. And as he said in the press conference as well, he's going to go home and celebrate by watching the video and just cracking on with the job. Sounds like that's the kind of guy that he is. And while we're here as well, might as well hear a little bit of Brian McDermott, who gave praise to his former side. Very disappointed, of course, to not have won with Leeds. But he was asked at the end of the game by Jamie a couple of questions about what he thought of London, and could he be happy in that they'd lost, because he's been one of the biggest supporters. But here's a little extract from the chat that Jamie had with the Leeds head coach, Brian McDermott.
But we mentally, some individuals, I keep saying the royal we, and that's not the case. That's harsh on quite a lot of players that were out in the field. For some individuals, they switched off and turned a blind eye to somebody running out of dummy half and a bit of a play from London. Credit London, they didn't go away, and for them to lose every game so far this year, and then at one point to be 16 points adrift, it must, it shows a bit of tenacity within the group for them to then keep at it. But then I've got to highlight the fact that there were periods in that second half where we just switched off defensively, which is tough to say. It's, never mind, live it and breathe it. It's tough to even say that.
Given your disappointment today, I know it could be a trite question, Brian, but you've been one of the biggest champions of London Rugby League outside of the capital since you moved to the Rhinos from the Broncos. As much as you're disappointed today, you'll be delighted to see the Broncos getting their first win of the season.
I think I have been a champion of it, because I know what goes on behind the scenes, and I know how hard it works. People work behind the scenes. For the likes of Steve McGee and Dom Fenton, these are the names that not many people recognise. It's good, Danny Ward, who was a player with Leeds Rhinos and then with London Broncos, now works from the 19s. It's great for people like those and Chris Baxter, that they can, and obviously Joey Grima, who's put some hard yards in since he's taken over as head coach, taken over from Tony Ray, who saved the club from God knows where it was at the end of last year. So there's a fair amount of hours gone in from a fair amount of people, and if today's give them a bit of solace and a bit of affirmation about what they're doing well, that's good. That's a good thing.
What a day then. Your comments on Twitter, nice of McDermott to pick out a few of the names of the people that have worked the Broncos as well. You heard from the kit man at the club, Steve McGee, Dom Fenton, he works in the football office, and Danny Ward as well, I mentioned, works for the 19s, a guy who he used many a time on the field while Brian Mack was coaching in London. Garnon on Twitter saying, London are alive and kicking, # long may it continue. Rugby League Masters saying, was it wishful thinking to think that Dixon would stay at the Broncos, spending all season in the treatment room, given a year's extended contract? We'll get on to the subject of Kieran Dixon in just a second. Ian saying, well, for him, in order to play for England, it really was the other option. I think I've loaded these tweets into my script in the wrong order, haven't I? With Aaron saying, Joey did say that in a couple of weeks there'll be a signing bigger than Mathers. And Anne contributing with it, would love to get Will Shaw back into Fev. Is still better bet, or Fev is still a better bet than us, sadly. So yeah, your comments as to how the game went at the weekend. Ian saying funny, been listening to Hooters for many years, but today's full-time Hooter was the most important. It was all feeling very, very weird. As for that feeling at the end of the game, I thought I'd have a chat with the rugby league journalist David Ballheimer, covered the sport in the capital for many a years, and was lucky enough to be at the game on Sunday. So with me not being there, you may not have been there too. You want to find out how it was? Here is my chat with David Ballheimer. David, we've been to many a game, talking beforehand as to whether there might be a victory in there. This season, the conversations have all been, not sure, it's unlikely. Was there a feeling before the game, especially when you saw the team sheet, the Broncos could do it? I mean, there was always the thought, for weeks, they're gonna, if the scenario was to happen that they were to face these sides before the Challenge Cup quarterfinals and semi-finals, as they did, that they might have an opportunity. Was that the feeling beforehand, or was it one of those days where you thought they might have a go, but it's probably not going to be enough?
Having seen so many of the games against teams that one would have thought they've got a chance here, and they've gone completely the other way. Hull KR in the last game. Team out of form, struggling, probably not going to make the playoffs. You would have thought they could have given it a real go. They were never in it, never at all. So when you see that, you think, how can you ever get optimistic again? And in truth, I wasn't optimistic, even when I saw the Leeds team and realised that Gloucestershire, all goals, had lost their scrum half because he was recalled by Leeds, and Chris Clarkson had played against Hemel Stags the previous week for Hunslet. And these were Championship 1 players. Certainly the second rower, Hunslet, didn't stand out to me at all. So no better than an average, or maybe slightly above average, Championship 1 player shouldn't be good enough to take on someone like the Broncos, who are, in name at least, a Super League team, although their form has hardly been that. I still didn't have huge optimism.
What was the atmosphere like at the end? I've heard it was very raucous, but it's always been a bit of a sombre place to be this year, even from the start of the year when, okay, the future was confirmed, but there was always a little bit of, I guess, not too much confidence banding around the place. It must have been slightly different to the end of the game on Sunday.
It was very strange because, as I say, there was this almost sense of, did they really win? Did it actually happen? The joy was there, certainly, but that last move was so desperately close that there wasn't time almost to enjoy it, because everyone realised just how desperately close they were to having lost, if not lost the game, certainly lost the win. But there was joy, there was elation, without question. And certainly amongst my friends in the media, there was also a sense of disbelief. Have they really just beaten Leeds? I've got a couple of stats you might be interested in. This is only London's second home victory in Super League since the Paralympic Games were on in 2012. And the two teams they have beaten are St Helens and Leeds. So certainly not the little sisters of the poor that were beaten, but two of the biggest names in Super League have had their colours lowered by the Broncos at home, and they're the only two. And I find that a really strange statistic.
And finally, one statistic for you, and you probably already know this one. Kieran Dixon, obviously with the best record of any Broncos player so far this year, 1 appearance, 1 try and 1 win. What do you make of his decision to leave Broncos initially, by his also decision to sign with Hull KR?
Hand on heart, I think he's making a mistake. For no reason other than the fact that he has yet to prove his fitness. He's been out for 10 months. His performance against Leeds was certainly adequate. He has weaknesses under a high ball, which he's getting better at, but it's still a distinct weakness. The first Leeds try came a result of him knocking on the first time he touched the ball. He fumbled a kick also during the game. So there were certainly signs of rust. He's only got 2 or 3 more games this season, and I can't imagine the Broncos will allow him to go as a dual reg to the Scholars this weekend, although I don't know what the situation is regarding that, given the fact he's been out injured for 10 months. There's certainly a very strong case to be made that he needs to get games under his belt, and another game would be very good. I think he needs a little bit more seasoning. And Hull KR, and in fact the 2 Hull teams, have taken a large number of London wingers over the years, and it would be fair to say that none of them have covered themselves in glory.
That's David Ballheimer, a journalist in London who's covered rugby league, with his thoughts as to how it was at the weekend, and a very special day that he was there. We mentioned those tweets earlier about Kieran Dixon. Interesting thoughts that Dave's got about Kieran. I think it's a no-brainer, isn't it? You know, if you want to aspire to be England level, which is where Kieran Dixon was when he got his injury, so there's no reason to suggest that he won't get back up to that. Then you know, you're offered a contract at a Super League club, you know, or clubs, and you make your decision, and that's what you're going to do, because you don't want to be playing in the Championship. You don't think you're going to have the selection for the national side, which is a fairly sensible thing. I can't hold anything against any of the players that have been offered an opportunity to play in Super League. Credit to those that are staying and committing their future to London. Credit to those who are coming to London to try and support the cause in the Championship next year, but you can't really hold it against any of those players. And I've mentioned it in a previous podcast, I wonder how many of Broncos' squad for this year that we're seeing right now will be in starting 13s, okay, starting 17s, let's say, come the first round of the Super League next year. It'll be an interesting number to try and dig out when we get to that stage early next year. And we should mention as well, obviously this podcast coming out a couple of days before the Challenge Cup weekend, as a Friday night lights for the London Scholars. I'd usually sort of talk to them in the lead up to the Friday night lights and get them on. It's been a busy couple of weeks for me. It's going to carry on being a busy couple of weeks, unfortunately, with all sorts of stuff going on. I might tell you what I'm doing as well, which you may well know if you've seen it on Twitter, but you may not, I'll tell you that later. But yeah, it's all very busy at the moment. So I'm trying to do these podcasts when I can. I haven't managed to speak to quite the selection of people that I'd like to over this programme. But I'm trying to do my best and get the interviews for you when I can. But I should just mention that the Scholars hosting their Friday night lights. They're up at Enfield this Friday, so if you are coming down for the Challenge Cup or you're going to make a weekend of it, then why not head over to Enfield to London Scholars. All the details on their website, and I'm sure they'd be delighted to see you if you can get there on Friday evening. Now, of course, also getting to the end of the season and getting into the playoff situations are the amateur teams who've just got into various their grand finals, aren't they? And one of them, Medway Dragons, who won the South East Premier Grand Final, playing the Portsmouth Navy Seahawks. They had a couple of big games to get there. Of course, they're now coached by Rob Powell, formerly coach of Harlequins Rugby League in those days of the London Super League club, but now doing various coaching roles and various coaching consultancy things, and part of which is involved at Medway Dragons. So they're through to the they got through that Southeast Premier Grand Final. They've won that now, so they're on through to a national quarter final where they'll go up against the it's the Cornish Rebels, isn't it? I thought I had all this written in my script, and I'm scrolling up and down here thinking, no, it's not here. That's it's not that one. No, it's not that one. And I'm sure I had pasted it somewhere. I've probably pasted it in separate script somewhere, something like that. Goodness knows where it is. But yes, there was one thing I wanted to mention about the Medway Dragons and the grand finals, and I had a tweet from Carl saying Valley Cougars secured a home playoff in the Conference League, Rugby League, the last weekend, and he was saying that it was the Welsh finals as well. So Carl, thank you for your message. I will try and do something. We've got something on Wales Rugby League in the programme in just a second. A couple of minutes actually. But yeah, we'll get on to doing the Valley Cougars maybe in the next week or so. But back to Medway and their victory at the weekend. So into a national quarter-final now. Here is my chat with the head coach of Medway Dragons, Rob Powell. Apologies for the slightly dodgy phone quality of this. This was a byproduct of me being out for the day, managing to find a reasonably quiet space to record something, but then, not really having the correct technology to do it. But here is my chat with Rob Powell.
They just put it all together for the last game and managed to beat a really competitive and strong Portsmouth team.
It's always difficult, isn't it, when you go down to Portsmouth? And did you need to win that game in order to win the division?
Yeah, so that was a final. So the way that it worked was that as they were the minor premiers, because they'd come top, we then had to go through the process of playing Southampton, who's another tricky team, in order to get the game against them in the final. So our semi-final was against Southampton, and then the final was at Portsmouth ground. And you know, they're a big, strong team. They had a lot of guys that were in the Navy playing for them. They had a big bench and rotated it well. And our average age was 20, you know, so we were really, really men against boys in many ways, and I just thought that the progressions they've made through the year and the application towards training and the fact that we've got a real good team spirit helped carry them through, because it was certainly not an easy game, and it might appear that they've won the final and it's all gone to plan, but there's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes and a lot of hard work from the guys in training in order to get to the point where they can play a game like that against a team like that and win. So last time we went down there in the league, we actually got beat, and beat quite convincingly. So there's been a big turnaround in the attitude of our guys.
So what about the next stage then? You go into the national quarter-final, I think, and you've been drawn against Cornish Rebels. So this is this for the Harry Jepson Trophy? I know there's been some big Southern winners of that in the last few years.
Yes, I think it's the Harry Jepson Trophy, so it's a bit different to the way it was structured when I was last involved with this with South London Storm. This time you play a national quarter-final, and then if we were to win that, we would then play against one of the other regional winners, and then that is playing for the Harry Jepson. So it's a bit of an unknown quantity in terms of the Cornish Rebels. Don't know too much about them, so it'll be another good opportunity to see where we're at in relation to one of the other regions. And we'll just give it a go and see where we get to, really.
What have you made of the Medway Dragons and how it's actually come to life this year? Because when you were first sort of, talked to about sort of becoming the head coach and taking on that role, it was all an idea and a concept, and I know things were going on, but obviously you weren't involved. Has it been what you were sold in terms of a role itself? Has it been better than what you were almost promised?
No, it was exactly as I thought. Martin was pretty open and honest about where they were at and what needed to happen with the men's team to kick it on. So I was under no illusions that there needs to be a period of really trying to stabilise the men's section of the club this year to put it in line with the rest of the club. The physical infrastructure is good, there's good training facilities, and it was just a case of trying to get those people re-engaged, really. I'm not saying that there wasn't involvement and engagement last year, but we've had a couple of guys come back, people like Gavin Hyder, who was out of the game as well. He didn't play rugby league for the last couple of years. He's come back, played nearly every game, captain the team on occasion. So I think doing that, getting to a point where we're really getting people to buy back into it and to want to be involved in the club and be around and it not just be an add-on to what they do in the summer. It actually be something that's really important to them, which I think we have changed the mindset slightly, and we're a bit further down the track than where we were.
Just mentioned a few more of the names. You mentioned Gavin there, but I mean, these guys, it's phenomenal, really, the effort that they put in throughout the year and what they give to amateur clubs like the Medway Dragons. I mean, who are your star players, or who are the guys that potentially have got a good future ahead of them?
Well, there's plenty of guys. Cause like I say, the average age of the squad was 20 of that game. So there's two sides to it, really. There's the side that there's some guys that haven't been on the radar in terms of regional rep stuff. So we had a 16-year-old who played in the final, a guy called Rob Powell, who's involved in the Origin under-16s. He's only 16, but he's capable and confident enough to play men's rugby. People like Ben Shears, who was involved with the London Broncos or Harlequins, and he scored 5 tries in the final. So, in a sense, he was the game breaker for us in that game. So there's lots of guys, and we've had some people like Richard Harris, who's been involved with London Broncos, who's come back to his local club, which is what it's about. So it's not quite worked out for Richard there at the Broncos at the moment, and he's come back and played some stuff with us, which is what how it should really work. That's the sort of transference of players up and down that we need to see in London.
I know, obviously, you've been involved in the pyramid at various levels over the last few years. You've obviously seen it from lots of different angles. How do you feel now, having had contact year back in rugby league in the south, in a sort of almost day-to-day basis? Where do you feel the sport is? Is it going the right way? Is it everyone talks about the development, stuff like that? Is that really the case?
I think there's loads of good players about, and I think that there's more teams playing the game in terms of more different clubs. I think there's clearly been an issue around the loss of all those full-time staff, about the stability of the clubs, and I think it's a real key time now. We clearly need some direction from the professional club as to where they want to go with it, and from the governing body. And we need to make sure that the clubs that are playing are stable, and I think that's the challenge at the moment. There's some good stuff going on, and there's some stuff where better standards about what we're doing, but I've been a bit more involved this year. I've done some talent ID stuff around the junior players, and it's been good to be back at that sort of arena, because it's probably something where you get your passion for it, which is where I started off with it, and you want to go and try and make sure that we've got as many good players coming through as we can. Clearly, it needs to be part of the bigger picture, and there needs to be transparency and clarity from the governing body and the club as to what we're trying to. That bit at the top, it's very hard to engage people to inspire them to want to be involved in.
And I mean, where next for Medway Dragons? We're going to talk to Martin Coyne in just a second, but I'm sure he'll give us the club point of view. But what do you think? What is the next thing for Medway? Is it just to back up your title next year, to be competitive again, and sort of look to try and build the squad, to keep the players developing? Build extra players, build spectators.
Yeah, that's entirely it. We've had a good start. But like I say, it's not been easy. It's not been straightforward. There's lots of room for improvement. We need more players. We need, we certainly need that, and we need to keep the young players that we've got and build players around that. We've got to make Medway the sort of place where people want to come and play. And people from other backgrounds and rugby union and other guys getting involved in it. So we know where we're at. We just need to keep on developing. It's been okay, and we've had a little bit of good stuff at the end there, winning the final. But we've got plenty of a way to go, and we just need to keep on engaging more people into what we're doing.
What do you do now, Rob? I know obviously you've got various different roles you hold. The Medway Dragons is just one of the things that you do. You obviously do coaching consultancy, and you're obviously still you are a rugby coach. You want to do well. Do you still sort of have aspirations to build your way back into the professional game?
Yeah, it's not something I'd discount, but it's probably. I'm enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. It seems when I spoke 6 months ago, I have lots of different little contracts. I do some things in rugby union at a decent level. Work with Richmond on their defence. They're a level 3 club, but a massive outfit in terms of number of members and the sort of crowds they get for their games and the quality of players. So I'm just developing my business and putting some different strings to my bow and expanding what I do, and we'll see where we get to. If those sort of contracts came along, I'd have a look at it. But I'm also not completely because I've got some other things that I'm now working on and enjoying working in schools and other clubs and things like that. So just trying to find the right balance, really, and if the right opportunity came along, I'd certainly have a look at it.
Because I had a message the other day when I mentioned on Twitter that obviously you'd won the final and you were obviously going to go on to the national competition now. And Chad Randall, now down under, said, great to see Powell doing so well. He said, great bloke and a great coach. And I guess, you have those skills and it's recognised, and it's for you, it's just a matter of sort of going out there and doing it and taking those opportunities, whatever you feel is best for you.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't realise that. That's really nice for Chad to have written that. He's a good guy himself, so nice for him to have said that to you on your Twitter there. But yeah, I think that's the thing. I think it's it can be, people's skills and whatever can become quite subjective, and things happen and things change, and I've just got to keep on doing what I think's right and keep on trying to be as good as I can be, and then put myself in a position to do coaching jobs that I think are relevant, that I'll get something from, and where I've got an opportunity to help develop people, whether that's kids or adults, or and trying to make sure that I'm making the right choices.
That's Rob Powell, and the head coach of the Medway Dragons. They want to build to bigger and better things, and we'll catch up with the director of rugby, I think is one of his many titles, Martin Coyd, in the next couple of weeks. Again, was trying to contact and trying to get in touch with him this week, and time just got away from us, and complications with things that I was up to, and I didn't manage to talk to Martin this week, so we will do that in the next couple of weeks to find out where they go now, and potentially, let's see if they go on to a semi-final, final maybe, the Harry Jepson Trophy. You never know. Could be the Medway Dragons this year, so I'm sure they'll work hard and they'll try hard. But a game against Cornish Rebels now to see if they can get into the semis. Right, now to a couple of interviews that I did last week, actually, as I tried to keep sort of the Rugby League Down South work going, despite everything else that I'm up to. I am down as the executive producer and director of a hyperlocal TV programme, which is going to be on a Sky channel and Freesat on the 1st of September. It's launching. If you haven't heard of it, it's called The Greenwich Show. That's what's keeping me busy at the moment. I'm trying to basically coordinate a half-an-hour monthly TV programme, shooting things, editing things, and trying to recruit a small team, a little marketing team, and all sorts of... Also trying to get a little bit of backing so that we can pay for the airtime and pay for all sorts of stuff. So it's been very busy, and I spend a lot of my time in Greenwich at the moment, which means that time has been deflected away from rugby down south. And also, I'm moving house at the same time. Everything just comes at once. So, yes, that's why it's been rather busy. But in my busy patch, I did manage to track down and have a chat with Brian Juliff, who's the chairman of Wales Rugby League. They now effectively run the South Wales Scorpions because they stepped in to make sure that the club could continue to compete this year. So I thought I'd have a chat with him about all manner of topics and all manner of things. So here is my chat with the top man of Wales Rugby League. This is Brian Juliff.
Brian, well, thank you for talking to us. I guess it's been a busy few years, really, for rugby league development in Wales over the last, probably 10, 12, 15 years or so. But how is this year comparing to previous years?
Well, we're making headway in terms of sustainability, Ian, and that's the one thing that I focused on, obviously, since I've taken over, less than 2 years ago or whatever. It was all about sustainability and increasing participation and getting a focus on what we were really trying to establish in terms of what rugby league meant to the fans and also the players, what the pathway was, whether the pathway was clear, and whether we could make that through to some sustainable teams at professional level to increase the performance at first team level. We are improving, we're getting there.
You talk about that sustainability then. I mean, what are your big issues at the moment, or what are the things that you are trying to sort out or push forward or do which are going to benefit Wales Rugby League the most?
Well, the biggest issue is the same in Wales as everywhere else, Ian. And as you know, I live in London. I know you guys down here are suffering from the same things, and it's all about investment, isn't it? It's about opportunity, it's about funding, it's about sponsorship, and also investment in people's time, because we need volunteers to make the organisation work. And Wales is run on a very tight budget now, but we are, solvent, and that's the main thing. But we've only got 3 employees effectively in the whole of the business. The rest of us are all volunteers. So people who are prepared to put their hands up and sponsor us, but most importantly, spreading our network into the clubs and the schools and getting volunteers to jump in and help us develop the game.
There's a number of projects up and down the country, not just in sport but in business, in all sorts. I'm involved in a few as well, where I act in a voluntary capacity to try and do the good, in the hope that in the future things turn into a commercial or a lucrative business, etc. I guess Wales RL wants to be sustainable. Should we be surprised by how much rugby league at this level has to rely on volunteers?
Well, I don't think it's a surprise. I think that particularly in Wales, a lot of people say to me in Wales, because obviously it's my home, a lot of people come to me and say, we've already got a game in Wales, why do we need another rugby? We've got rugby. And of course, the issue is getting from that question to encouraging people to look at the game and understand why we're trying to establish a game, because the game has different skills at different levels. The sort of players that we need for rugby league have a different body and mindset to rugby union, in terms of size in particular. And it's trying to explain to people that the game is, particularly for kids, for children. When I speak to schools and parents, what I say to them is that, my children, my grandchildren now, but certainly my grandchild, I'd want him to play rugby league in preference, mainly, especially at a young age group in school, because it's much more transparent. The ball's in your hands, the ball's in play, the tackling is, you can see, it's a man-on tackling. Nobody's kicking you on the ground, nobody's stamping you. You haven't got to worry about them breaking the neck in a scrimmage or getting tipped over in the line-out. So I think the game is a much more transparent game to play. So I try to encourage people down that route. Give the children a chance to play the game, boys and girls, have some fun running with the ball, have some fun for the full time they're on the pitch because they're in the game, and then give them the choice as they get older in terms of where they go in the game, whether they go to rugby union or rugby league. I embrace rugby union because it's my background too. And I'm happy for the boys and girls to develop with us and then go from that into rugby union. If they're good enough to go on and play for Wales at rugby union, we're proud of them and we'd encourage that. But to the same token, we hope by adopting that sort of attitude that we get more people playing with us, we'll increase participation, particularly at the junior levels, and then they will have the choice, which didn't happen in the past year.
One of the things that you have in Wales as well is a semi-professional team in the South Wales Scorpions, and they had troubled times, like another club that I'm particularly knowledgeable about, the London Broncos last year, and it was always a bit uncertain as to whether they would compete this year. Wales Rugby League stepped in to make sure that they would compete. You're obviously in charge of Wales RL. Why did you feel it was important to make sure that they were around this year?
The pathway is vital. From us, from 16, you'd have seen our 16 and 18 teams here, because they played against London, and we are very competitive at that level. What we need to make sure is we don't lose the boys because there's nowhere for them to go. And if they don't get picked up, of course, at that level by Wigan, Warrington, or any of the top clubs, then there's a big likelihood they will go back to playing club rugby union in Wales. So we need to make sure that we've got a team in Wales that is as good as any of the rugby union teams and competes at that level. So the South Wales Scorpions, for me, it was a vital project, and I'm really passionate now about getting that going properly next year. The boys didn't have a chance this year, in fairness, although they've done very, very well, in my opinion. To do as well as they have done is remarkable, because we didn't have a team, just around Christmas time. We didn't know whether the owner at that time was going to stay with us or leave. Unfortunately, he's left, and he's, for a number of reasons. But we then had a team that was rudderless, without investment, without players, and we had to start again. And we were lucky enough to manage to pick up Mike, who was coaching our Dragonhearts, as you know, Ian. And Mike was more than happy to move into Wales and support us in a project that was, incredible, really, at that stage. So we were way behind everybody else in preparation. And it took them a while, I think Mike and Paul, quite a while to get things cracking together. But they're playing as a team now, and the spirit there is remarkable. It's fantastic. It's great to be around.
I don't know if it's something that you can talk about, but I thought I'd ask the question. I mean, Broncos at the moment have one owner, which they rely heavily on. If David Hughes wasn't around, things would be an awful lot different in London. What happened with the previous owner of South Wales Scorpions, and why did they decide not to back the team this year?
I think it was frustration in terms of we still have a relationship with Wigan, and I think Phil at that time was putting money into the club. He probably wasn't getting the rewards he wanted. He'd been there 4 years, in fairness to Phil, and then had invested quite a bit of money and a lot of his time into that. Things started to change in terms of what his personal life was doing. I think he's living overseas at the moment, although that's not for good, and we hope he will come back to the game, Ian. But he had other things he had to do. So he wasn't quite sure right up to the very end, and that's one of the reasons why we just didn't have a team together, because he couldn't really get his head around, I don't think, what he wanted to do and when he wanted to do it. So when Phil decided it would be better if we were interested in taking on, that he stepped to one side to take some time out, that's when we decided we'd go ahead, and that's what's happened.
And with the development, you talk about, people being poached by other clubs, when they get to a certain level, and how South Wales Scorpions need to be there to ensure that the player pathway stays. While ever there's a gulf between the level that you play at and the top level, is there always going to be an element of you are going to have your best players poached?
Well, we want that. We encourage that. We've actively been pushing some of our under-17s and under-16s towards the top clubs, and we've got a couple of players currently who are at St Helens. We've got some players over at Wigan. We've got Warrington looking to fill our players. So we are actively promoting that, and we are happy for that to happen. But not all these blocks. We've got a very good under-16 and under-17 team. Not all these boys are going to get picked up straight away, because they're all different development processes, aren't they? Some develop quicker than others. So we have to keep them in the game long enough for people to start looking at them and pull them through. If they don't come through, though, there's nothing wrong with playing for the Scorpions or playing for the Crusaders. It's an honour. And as we strengthen over the next 3 years, the Scorpions, they are going to have a very, very strong team there if none of those boys get picked up by the top side. So we could be performing at the top level in the Championship without any shadow of doubt in 3 years.
Brian, you also had a very successful event in recent weeks at Cardiff Arms Park with the South Wales Scorpions playing there, a couple of other games as well. I've read a few stories to say that it went down so well, potentially it could be a permanent playing venue for you in the future. Is that true?
It's something we looked at, Ian. Whether it's likely to happen in the near future, I couldn't confirm that as yet. But obviously Cardiff is the major city in Wales, great transport links, particularly when people are travelling from London or from the northern teams, so it's ideal for playing rugby league, and that pitch is magnificent. The Cardiff Blues pitch, the Arms Park, it went down fantastically well. The game was sponsored, that's why we put it on. So that in itself is a major step forward for us, that someone's prepared to put money up to have rugby league in the capital, and we had a record crowd, as you're aware. So that went from that side. It went great. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. And for me, it was a great away day, because I travelled down that morning and back that night, and what a great trip it was. We played very well against the Scholars in a very competitive game, because the Scholars came to win that game, there was no doubt. And as you know, 1 point won it at senior level. Mm-hmm. Although at junior level, we are quite strong at junior level, and that was an excellent game too, from our point of view, because the boys played very, very well for an excellent victory against your youngsters, the London Scholars youngsters.
And you mentioned as well the added value that it brings to you, to the South Wales Scorpions as a club, and to, I guess, to Wales Rugby League as well in general, to sort of go and play, in the capital at such a prestigious venue. Do you think that something like that, if it was to be a permanent thing, would give you sustained added value? It's always good for a one-off event, but do you think you would continue to attract those, not necessarily record crowds, but bigger crowds if you were, in a place with better transport links, maybe in the capital, somewhere associated, somewhere a bit more well known?
Absolutely, and there's absolutely no doubt about that at all. We have to get a base that we play from regularly, and I think that's one of the issues you've had in London with the Broncos, because they've become a bit of a team that's travelled around far too much, and as a result, they haven't put the footprints in the right places to encourage more people to come and play through the schools into the system. We've got to do that in Wales, we know that. We did talk at one stage about going on the road, similar to the Broncos did when they went up to Kent and various other places. But we decided against that. However, this came out of the blue, and it was too good an opportunity to turn down. And we will look at it initially, and we were looking at it as a possible international venue. So it was an opportunity to put a toe in the water and see what response we would get. And of course, we had a fantastic response, and it was a great day of rugby on a lovely day, and the sun was out. You couldn't beat it, really. It was unbelievable. Next year, we've been offered the opportunity to play there on, I think it's 5 occasions. So we are considering that, and there's every likelihood we will do that. We do, however, have an exciting game coming up now in Mountain Ash, which is in the valleys, and that is the hotbed of rugby, rugby union in particular. But we've got a lot of good rugby league lads who've come through there. And there's a likelihood Mountain Ash Rugby Club are very, very interested in the Scorpions playing at that ground. But we're playing at Wales under 16 against England under 16 there on the 30th of August. The way it's going and the sort of support coming from the club looks as if that could be a big crowd too. The following week we're going to play the Scorpions there because Mount were or are interested in looking at a professional team playing out of Mountain Ash, which is amazing because they are one of the founder members of the rugby union. They're known as the old firm, and that would be a real foothold in a great area for participation in terms of schools and the like. So we will be playing 2 more games on the road, so to speak, away from the base they've used this year, to see how that goes as well. And if that goes well, we're quite relaxed at this stage in terms of where we play next year because we recognise we're on a 3 to 5 year development plan to get the Scorpions right.
And also, I mean, considering the state that the club was in, 8-9 months ago, sounds like this year, really, you've moved a long way forward.
We have, Ian, but the boys themselves, it's remarkable, really, because these boys are not playing for huge money. They're playing because they like the game, and that's the great thing about it. They're playing rugby league by choice. They're working within a budget that we set, and the budget is minimal. Trust me. They're all volunteers who are running the club. It's remarkable the way they've all pulled together to make this work. I'm really proud of them, actually. When I go in the change rooms, when I'm at the games, it's absolute real pleasure to feel the passion in the room. Win or lose, they're so committed to each other. And that's what we have to have in Wales. We want people to play the game because it's their choice to play the game and to enjoy what they're doing. It's not always all about winning. In the future, hopefully, we will start winning a lot more. And then, of course, that will add the value and it will build the crowds.
And what do you think of the changes that are being put into the divisions for 2015 from a Wales perspective? Do you think it's an opportunity there presents you with the potential for future growth?
I think so. I mean, of course it is. Yes, no doubt. There's always the opportunity now to creep your way towards those top teams, isn't it? And into the the playoff areas of the Super Leagues. It's a lot more, I would think it's a lot more suitable for us because we're still going to be battling, beginning next season in particular, mid-table in the championship. So any chance of growing outside that over the next 2 years and playing at the top end of the championship and also taking on some of the bottom end of the Super League side, it's fantastic, isn't it? What an opportunity.
Interesting things going on with Wales Rugby League. Sounds like they're building. They've got a plan. They've got a slow plan. That's a slow burn. Is that what you want to do? But some rather exciting things. I know Cardiff Arms Park, it sounds like it could well happen for a couple of games, and they've obviously got potential other options and stuff like that. It sounds like they are, well, imagining having far too many options to consider rather than not enough, which in terms of ground hopping and ground sharing and ground use within rugby league in the south, it's not a very common occurrence, is it really? But things going well for Wales Rugby League. It's good to see the Scorpions continuing to go. It's been a tough year, as everyone says, and we spoke to their head coach Mike Grady on a number of occasions, and I'm sure they'll look to try and build and improve and continue their progression next year when things are slightly more stable. And finally on the programme, if you ever have a story or something that you'd like to get on the programme, do get in touch, and this is exactly one of those. Someone put me in touch with a guy called Matt Turner, who's organising a rugby league game. It's for a charity, it's for something and a cause and a story that's very close to his heart, so I'll let him tell the story of how it all came about and the details of the game. But here is Matt Turner, a rugby league player. He'll give you all his background, but he's organising a charity game which would be great for anyone to support if they want to. My chat with Matt Turner.
It's a tragic story about why you are organising this, but just give us a background as to how the day has evolved for you to be putting it on.
Well, I've basically been around rugby my entire life, and it's just something I know a lot of. So unfortunately, my nephew passed away in December of only being 8 weeks through cot death, which obviously is tragic and just unpredictable. Don't know, it affects very little people actually, and we just wanted to give something back to the charity that have helped us so much, like over the difficult times. So I just decided to do a charity match, and it ended up being a family fun day.
And tell us a bit more about, or give us the name of the charity and a bit more about what they do.
The charity is called Saying Goodbye, and it's part of the Mariposa Trust, and they basically just offer support to families that have lost a child. I believe it was started by someone in the same situation, and they wanted to offer help and support where needed and where it could be used. I think they do help. Some of the money they raise fund research into things like cot death and see if there is preventative measures for it. But as far as I know, it's mainly the support side of things that they're really interested in.
And like you say, you've known rugby league for a while. It's the only thing that you thought of doing. You say you've invited an invitational team. You got any big names on there? Are these just guys that you've got from the park?
It's not massive names, no. Not even names that are known. It's just I've got people coming from all over the country. Just people coming from Yorkshire to play that I've said they'll lend support. People coming from South Wales. People coming from Worcester and Gloucester just to come down and play the game. Like friends of mine that I've played rugby league with during the past, they're just coming down to lend their support for the day and playing for the invitation.
Sounds like a great group of guys that you've pulled together. And you're playing the Beckenham Bears. Is that a team local to you? Is that a team that you know well? Obviously, I think, were you involved in South London Storm previously?
I was with the junior setup with South London Storm. Played a season with the senior team before moving for university, and I know the coach very well. He was my former coach as a junior, and so it just seemed like a no-brainer really where to ask for an opposition.
And just give us the details on what exactly is going on this fun day and where and when it is.
We've got the game. I think it'll be kicking off around 4:00. We have a barbecue going on. We have bouncy castle and face painting for the kids. There'll be raffle. There's some good prizes in there, including tickets to the Super League Grand Final donated by the RFL.
Very nice.
There's tickets to the Millennium Stadium Tour in Cardiff. There's a signed Sheffield Eagles ball. Just bits and pieces. And it's all at Wallingham Rugby Club on the Sunday the 24th of August.
And in terms of the charity, are you just hoping that you will raise money from the event for them?
Yes. All of the proceeds are going between the charity and my nephew's headstone for his grave. So we're divvying it up for the two. There are the two main causes.
Well, let's hope the game can raise loads of money. Again, any story that you feel, like Matt did, that's could be told on Rugby League Down South and you want to get it some coverage, then do please get in touch on Twitter at Ian Ramsdale. You can use the hashtag RLDS or email rldownsouth@gmail.com. And that's it for Rugby League Down South. For now, we'll be back, or I'll be back. I'll try and give you another podcast whenever I can. Appreciate and hopefully bear with me with it being reasonably busy at the moment. But I will be back with another podcast soon, I promise.